Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails. This is it, folks. This is my new player guide for free-to-play players. We're not doing the Hyperdrive bundle, and it's going to be a good time. I've already started a new account, and you guys can follow along with me in the Prevail Man series. That's the name of my new account. And we're not doing the Hyperdrive bundle. We're following a very specific set of farming, and I will be releasing the farming guide tomorrow, Lord willing. So look forward to that, of course. And this guide is going to be an interesting one, I think. This is a strategy guide, as opposed to the farming guide. Farming is just going to be talking about specific characters we're going to target first, and kind of how we're going to level up the account, and how we're going to accomplish our objectives. This is going to be the video that talks about our objectives, the kind of things to expect, the sorts of goals we're going to have, and the methodology through which we achieve those goals. Now, one of the things that I really want to address early on is a lot of people have said that you can't play this game free to play anymore. That is so ridiculous to me. They say that you can't play this game competitively without spending money on the Hyperdrive bundle, and I don't even think the Hyperdrive bundle is that great for new players. Like, yes, it advances your account, you can access a ton of the game early on, but it doesn't set you up for success. It doesn't give you a ton of mods, which you desperately need, and we'll talk about in my various guides. You don't get very many Zetas, which suddenly, if you have a ton of these high-end characters, even at lower gear levels, they need Zetas, and you don't have any to give away. Like, it's a huge mess if you go with the Hyperdrive bundle. And honestly, you absolutely can compete. You're not going to have the highest arena rank. You're not going to have the most glamorous account necessarily right off the bat. You're not going to have super high relic levels, all of this stuff, but you're going to be able to compete and advance your account pretty quickly, even without having really high arena ranks and ship ranks. Alright, so why should you listen to me? Let's talk about that for just a minute. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Xaereth, and I am a competitive Grand Arena Championships player. Grand Arena Championships is the premier PvP single player mode in the game, and I've had a lot of success in it, honestly. I have two different accounts, one at kind of the end game level, and the highest league that you could achieve in each season in that game mode is Kyber League, and it is pretty tough to get. Not too many people can get it, and I will say that in the 11 seasons that we've played so far, I've made Kyber all 11 seasons pretty conclusively. In addition to that, I have a mid-game account, which is my alternate account, and that account has made Kyber all 11 times as well. One of those times I actually made top 10, which is crazy. There's over 50,000 people in each division, and I made top 10 in that alt accounts division. So I've had a lot of success in Grand Arena, and this guide is going to be based off of success, or at least aimed at trying to succeed in that game mode. That's really going to be the entire focus here. It's not going to be on any other part, though there is a lot of overlap, and PvE, player versus environment, is obviously a very important part of the game, and we're going to be focusing on that as well, though obviously the focus, as I said before, is going to be success in Grand Arena. Alright, so you may be wondering why I elected to call my new player guide Xaereth'S Jedi Code for new players, and it's because it really epitomizes my approach to the game. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I am always trying to take a very analytical approach to things, trying to find the best methodology, the best way to do things, and honestly, the Jedi Code really encapsulates a lot of the different values that I hold for this game. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have emotion, you shouldn't enjoy the game. Of course, we all love Star Wars. We're playing a game. We're trying to have fun, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of sentiment that goes on out there that is not necessarily beneficial to new players. And frankly, I mean, just because something feels fun or it looks cool or something, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a good idea or a good choice. And so this guide is really trying to find the best way to advance your account. And honestly, you'll find a lot more enjoyment if you have a really solid foundation in this game, and that's what we're trying to establish here. Playing this game can really cause some pretty strong emotions. You can start going on tilt if you're playing against another player and something isn't working. And really, that goes really well with the first tenet of the Jedi Code. There is no emotion, there is peace. I'm all about trying to make sure that we understand the kits and understand the different characters and interactions between those characters. And that goes really well with the second tenet, which is there is no ignorant, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. We're going to love this game, and there is going to be passion, but we're going to feel peaceful about it. We're going to take things with an even keel. We don't want to overreact. You can go to Reddit and overreact all you want, or honestly, you can hang out with me and we can figure things out together. There is no chaos, there is harmony. That goes hand in hand with the last one. Like we want to work together to figure these things out. We want to actually make sense of things rather than just farming random characters for no idea why. We're going to have a methodology, we're going to have an approach that is going to maximize your results even without having to spend money. And finally, there is no death, there is the Force. We're trying to avoid our accounts just being awful, frankly. There is a right way and a wrong way. There's several right ways and even more multitudinous opportunities to epically fail. And we're really trying to avoid that. This guide is going to show at least one of the ways that you're going to be able to succeed. All right, before we get into more in-depth stuff, I do want to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking me. A lot of people have been contentiously debating this, and so I want to address a few of the things. So people want to know what squads we're going to be starting with and why they're the best to start with. Because frankly, there are a couple different schools of thought. My starting guide uses Phoenix Squad. Frankly, Phoenix have been a really strong squad almost since I started. Like, I don't know if it's been 3 or 4 years. It's been a while. They've been a very strong starting squad. And I know that there's a new school of thought saying you need to use Geonosians. And, you need to go for Geonosians and Separatists first. And just, Phoenix aren't good end game, whereas Separatists are. And that's accurate. Phoenix lose a lot of their power in the end game. They stop being nearly as relevant, but I will say a lot of the arguments that people are citing, like you need to have Geonosians to be able to get into a good guild so that you can help with Darkside Geonosis territory battles, and I get that. That is a good argument. Everyone says that you need Geonosians because how else can you beat your opponent's Geonosians? And we do have an answer for that. Really, the rework to Darth Vader has made the Phoenix approach far stronger, in my opinion. We're going to also be using Phoenix because, frankly, they are amazing at the start of the game. They help you unlock a ton of the really strong characters that you need at the start, and they do provide a really strong foundation, whereas we're not going to be using them super long term. We also don't need to put a ton of gear on them. We want to put some gear on a couple of them, but we don't necessarily need to get them all the way up to like gear 12 or 13. That's just crazy talk. We just need to get them to like gear 8 and a couple of them to gear 11 and just leave them there. The fact of the matter is, when people say that they want to start a new player account that doesn't use the Hyperdrive bundle, and they say that you need to use Geonosians first, they're not necessarily thinking about how important certain starting things are. Like Galactic War, a lot of endgame players forget that you have to actually go through and beat Galactic War 50 times. And if you don't beat it, like if you can't get past the final node on Galactic War, you're not going to be able to get that extra 400 currency in Galactic War Store, which is so vital to the start of the game. If you want to get 7 stars on a character quickly, to be able to participate in raids, to be able to actually participate in territory wars or territory battles, like all of these things, you need to have a really strong account to be able to beat the Galactic War. And with Phoenix, you beat it every single time. So far, I have beat it 28 times out of 28 attempts. It is super easy with Phoenix, and it is significantly harder with the Geonosian approach, because if you start with Geonosians, you have to get all the way to 85 before you can even start farming the main linchpin character, which is the Geonosian Brood Alpha, which I'm not saying that that squad isn't super potent. I am saying that that squad is just really, really perversely difficult to farm, and they do not help you in the early game at all. When you get to the late game, sure, they're super relevant, they're really strong. People say that if you don't have Geonosians, you can't beat them with any other squad, and the fact is that that may have been true until just recently they reworked Darth Vader, and Darth Vader is going to give us all the tools we need to be able to beat those squads pretty easily. So that's kind of the long and the short of why we're going to be going with Phoenix. I'll get more into it with the farming guide and everything, but for now I hope that that satisfies a couple of you. Alright, so let's jump into the game here. This is my alternate account, and as you can see, I am in Division 3. The last time that I finished Grand Arena, which was just a few days ago, I placed number 62, and that is from barely trying. There were a lot of things. I honestly probably could have gotten top 10 again if I had really, really tried, but because I have 2 accounts and I have my new player account as well, so 3 total accounts, I just didn't have enough time or motivation to really, really focus on that. Though I will show you guys one really cool thing. If I can find it here. So here, let's actually just look at stats. So at the bottom here, you can see where I've gotten the highest rank that I've achieved, and it was in Division 3. I made Kyber, and within Kyber League, I got number 8, which is top 10. That gives me a super secret fancy title, and that is Kyber Contender. So you have to be between ranks 2 and 10. And that is a super rare title. I don't use it for this account actually because I don't want to scare people when they see me, when they're facing off against me. They see Kyber Contender and they suddenly stop ignoring my really bad arena rank and fleet rank. They just see the Kyber Contender and that I'm a good player. And so the question is, like, how does a person who doesn't place highly in Arena, how does someone actually do so well in Grand Arena? And honestly, the answer to that question is I have a very deep roster. There's been a lot of debate lately in the Galaxy of Heroes community of, like, what should we be focused on? Should we have a really deep roster? Should it be have all of the different characters unlocked but not super strong, or should we have a more focused account, and that means getting all of your characters on a certain squad all the way maxed out, all the way to the top, get them all their relic levels, get them all their gear and Zetas and everything. And this strategy guide is not going to espouse the focused roster, that approach. That means, getting all of your characters up to super high relic levels. Instead, we're going to be focused on getting a ton of characters that are just really strong and not necessarily the highest gear level, but are still very effective at a lower gear level and way more efficient in terms of who you're matching up against and what you're going to be facing. Okay, so you may be wondering why we want to have a deep roster, and I'm going to explain some of it to you guys here. It's based off of what we're going to be facing in Grand Arena. That's the game mode that we've been talking about focusing on. And so part of it is you can see on the bottom here of this screen, you can see the character power level, and that's 24,000. The character could have significantly higher power level being GP. That's what we use to refer to it. I think it just stands for galactic power or something. I'm actually not sure at this point what it is. We all just call it GP. But the fact is, this character is at gear 13. That's the highest gear level, but there are things you can do to increase his power level. He's at relic 0 right now, so after you hit gear 13, you can increase his stats by adding relic levels. You can add up to 7 relic levels, and for each relic level, you get to add a certain amount of GP, and it's increasing for each consecutive relic level. So I personally subscribe to the idea of putting very few relic levels on it. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. However, this number 24,000 is a number that they use in order to find good matchups in Grand Arena. Alright, so that's GP, and I want to show you guys how that is applied in Grand Arena for your matchmaking, and why it's important to have a deep roster rather than a really top-heavy focused roster, and that is look at the second line, or rather the third line there. So the second line is the GP. That's the power that I talked about. That's for every single character on your roster and every ship on your roster, at all of their power levels added up. This is for my main account, so obviously a little bit higher GP. But then you look at the next line below that, and that's the top 80 GP and top 65, and how my stuff compares to my opponents, and what that's referring to is your top 80 characters, the top 80 characters in terms of GP. So if that character we were looking at 24,000, he is probably inside of my top 65 and inside of my top 80. And what they do for matchmaking to determine who you're going to be paired up against is they look at your top 80 characters, they just add up all of that GP, and then they pair you with someone with a very similar level of GP. So your top 65, similar, and I think that in this case, in this matchup, we used the top 65 rather than the top 80. It was obviously a little bit off, but it was pretty close, just because both of us did certain things to our roster to make this GP a little bit off after we got paired. Which doesn't necessarily concern us here. So what I'm trying to explain here, though, is we're using 65 characters. Like we're talking about 65. The game recognizes the 65 characters, the top 65 on our roster. We can have, all of us have, after a while, a lot more characters than just 65, and a lot of them are very useful in certain circumstances, especially in Grand Arena. And so if you have only 65 characters and they are all really strong, and then after that it just drops off and all of your characters are bad, the game doesn't care. They're just going to go off of the power level of those 65. On the other hand, if you have 65 really, really strong characters, and then you have another like 100 characters that are also like an equal level of strength, the game only takes into consideration those 65. And so if you have an equal power level in a matchup, and one person, the first person I described, with 65 really super strong, and then the rest of them are weak, they could easily be paired against someone with 65 also very strong characters, but then the person with 65 characters plus another 100 really good ones is going to be at a significant advantage. And so what we're trying to do here is kind of game the system a little bit to allow us to have a very deep roster for Grand Arena that's going to allow us to have a really strong chance of getting paired against someone who doesn't necessarily have all of the characters that we do, or have the functionality that a roster does. Alright, so the other piece of it, and the practical application side of all of this is, you can see here I'm applying a piece of gear to this character. He's at gear 12, he's trying to get to 13, so this is the highest level piece of gear. They add a lot of really very relevant, very strong stats to that character, and it's very efficient. You can see it's plus 210. The top little graphic on the top shows plus 210 on that character. Now, when you get past gear 12, once you hit gear 13, then you can see that applying one relic level, this is going from 0 relics to 1 relic, you can see that it adds plus 759. And obviously that number is higher than the last. This is for a new relic level. This is just for the lowest relic level, so they actually get higher. You can see the stat gain that you get from it, and honestly, the two don't necessarily compare. Maybe you get a similar level of gain from a relic level versus a piece of gear. However, you're also spending 3 times the amount of GP, and that really adds up. That adds up a lot. And so, whereas you can get a Relic 7 character to be pretty strong, they can hit hard, they're more resilient, and sometimes you want that, sometimes it's worth that cost. The fact is, the rules of a character, the interactions of a character versus another character matter much more than the total stats. So if you're out-statted by your opponent, if you have a character that has really good game mechanics, rules that are going to have a favorable interaction for you, that you can leverage just by skill, by learning how to play the game well and knowing what characters go well against other ones, you can leverage that matchup, and you're going to actually end up having an advantage, even though the opponent has a higher relic level. And so what ends up happening is with this matchup philosophy is you end up getting an equal level of 65, top 65 GP or top 80 GP, but yours is way more efficient because you've spread it out. You have a ton of characters that can function at a really high level, and as long as you know how to use those characters, which I have a ton of guides on how to do that, on how to gain skill as a player, on what matchups you want to use, as long as you're leveraging that, you're going to be in a very good place because your opponent is going to have an inefficient level of relic levels. They're going to have characters that don't make any sense in their top 65. They're going to be a mess, and if you follow this guide, you're not going to be a mess. You're going to have streamlined squads that can beat much stronger squads and kind of trade up, so to speak, and you're going to be in a really good place. So that's kind of what our goal here is in terms of matchmaking and trying to make sure that we're getting favorable matchups. Now, the downfall to all of this is we're not going to have a really high arena rank. That's just not in the cards. If you want to have a high arena rank, you need to do other things. You need really high cutting edge relic levels, and that's just not something we have at this for this account. I'm using a pretty subpar arena team. You can see though on the top here, my arena rank is not super high. Look at the prizes. I'm only getting 60 crystals every day, and so progression is slower. That's just how it is. People who are getting 500 crystals a day are going to have higher levels and higher rates of progression. That's just how it works. And unfortunately, that is relevant. However, to be able to do that, you have to have really high relic levels. You have to have all of the cutting edge characters. You have to have all of these things. Our methodology kind of helps us avoid people with these really high gear levels and really high accounts. You can see just by randomly clicking on things, this guy has Relic 7, Relic 7, Relic 7, Relic 5. This guy doesn't have any relics, but he does have, he's Relic 0. He's a gear of 13. And he's not necessarily placing, like, look at him. He's at number 1 on both fleets, both fleet and arena ranks, but his championship rank is nowhere near mine. I got top 61, I think. I got number 61, something like that. This guy didn't even come close to that. So gear does not necessarily mean that you're going to just win. This is like one of the best characters in the game, Rey, and you I don't have her on my account. I'm not even close to having her, in fact. And yet, I'm placing significantly higher than these guys who have a much stronger roster overall. You can see this guy, he has Supreme Leader Kylo, he's the second strongest. He's also not very close to being in the top. You can look at this guy. This guy didn't even make Kyber. He's still a lower rank than me in Erodium, which is the lower rank below that. Honestly, if you want to have really high gear levels, if you want really high relic levels, all of this stuff, you can get the top place in Arena, but you're also going to be placed up against people who have a significantly stronger roster as well. So you're going to be fighting people who have equally strong, and frankly, this squad here is beatable by some of our squads that we have at significantly lower relic levels and lower investment, and we're going to have a higher GP, or we're going to have the same level GP, but we're going to have more efficient GP in terms of overall roster. So you can see here that the guy has a few relic levels, a few really high level relics, and then the rest of his roster is not that great. And we'd probably, I don't know how we would do in that matchup, but all I'm saying is if you want to have a high arena rank, you're going to get paired against people who also do high arena ranks, who are very top heavy in what kind of characters that they're developing, and your matches are going to be significantly more difficult. So how do we go about doing this? Basically, my personal goal on this account, and I will eventually change this up because it can hurt your guild a little bit if you have really low relic levels, because you can't achieve some of the really high endgame stuff. My goal here, though, is keep all of my relic levels at relic 3 and below. I have General Grievous at relic 3. I have B1 Battle Droid at Relic 3, General Kenobi at Relic 3, and then I think after that, everyone is either Relic 2, 1, or 0, or have lower gear than that. And frankly, the efficiency of putting on those gear pieces is just extreme. Like, trying to be efficient with gear placement and be intentional about which characters we want to gear is huge. That is the battle. You want to have good unlocks. You want to have access to all the different game-changing characters, which this guide is absolutely going to address and show you guys how to get. And honestly, here, let's look at the leaderboards here. So I got number 62. Let's look though at the top. Let's look at Division 1 here and see who ended up winning that. So you can see this guy. He has some relic levels, relic level 4 on a lot of these guys, and then really, like, this account is nowhere near as strong as my main account, who is also in Division 1. Like, they don't have hardly any relics at all. They have gear 12 on a lot of guys, like, early on in their roster. Like, top 65, my top 65 on my main account is all gear 13 on some level, and a lot of them are relic 7 because I haven't chosen to subscribe to this methodology on my main. But look at how quickly we get to gear 11. Like, this is not a top roster, and yet the player was able to leverage these characters into having a really strong level of pairings, and therefore he won. He got the very top spot in Grand Arena just because he had this exact same strategy. And not everyone follows it, not everyone loves people who follow it, but it's very effective, very, very effective. So I'm going to show you guys how to do all of that, and you can do it for free. I think that's the best part. You're going to have low arena ranks, your progression is going to be a little slower, that's just how it works, but if you do this, you're going to get into a decent guild pretty quick. You're going to be starting to unlock a lot of characters. We need to have patience and self-control as we're farming characters. Almost all of our energy is going to be used to farm characters. We're not going to be farming gear. I know that a lot of people like to do that, but that is a fallacy. We want to be farming characters, so that when we need them, we have them available to start putting gear on them so that we can use them to unlock characters. And we'll get into all of that a lot in the next guide, in the farming guide. This is just the strategy guide, but really, guys, I think this is going to help everyone who follows it. If you want to be successful in Grand Arena, you're going to need to follow a guide similar to this. And yeah, I really think this is going to work well. And if you doubt me, I'm going to be following this guide almost exactly on my new player account. We're not doing Hyperdrive, like I said, not spending money. We're just going to be going. I'm going to give weekly updates so you guys can follow along and see what my progress is and if I'm full of it or not. But I'm pretty sure this is going to work. My alternate account, I did buy the Hyperdrive bundle, but I bought it way later down the road because it was at a point where I really wanted a couple of the characters and a lot of the gear that it gives. It's not a bad purchase by any means, but we're not going to do that on this free-to-play account because that's what we're trying to do, free-to-play, trying to make it accessible to players who have no money to spend on the game, frankly. Alright, folks, I think that we're going to call it good here. Stay tuned for my farming video, which should be out in a day or so. If it doesn't come out tomorrow, then hopefully the next day. And yeah, this is going to be great. Follow along with my Prevail Man account. I'm going to be putting up weekly updates showing you guys the different characters that I'm upgrading, my rate of upgrade on my account, the different events that I'm able to finish, and how I'm using the different characters on the roster that we're farming. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope that this is going to be a good resource for a lot of new players moving forward. And yeah, I really think I'm really excited about this. I think this is going to be a good thing. So thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.